What's up, guys? Jason Oblay here, and I'm having myself a Guinness Extra Stout. And today I would like to discuss my 1 year of consistent weight training update. So we're going to be talking about my progression and how I did my first full year of weight training. Alright, so little background on this is today is August 17th. It's been officially 1 year now since I started training. Started training in August 17th, 2013. I actually had an injury which caused me to not be able to run. And my main sport being soccer, not being able to run makes it kind of hard. So I needed some way to be active and exercise while I was hurt. So I chose to do weightlifting, and I mainly had planned on just doing upper body stuff at the time, and I actually probably planned on quitting eventually after, but I didn't, and I'm here today. And I plan on going to the gym tomorrow too, so I'm not quitting after 1 full year of training. But how I started basically on your typical bro splits. I went in every day, Monday through Friday, and I would pick a body part, and I'd do only that body part for a day. So it'd be the typical chest day, back day, leg day, shoulder day, arm day, etc., etc. And I really didn't know anything about programming. All I knew was exercises and things I read in the Arnold's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, which is actually a great, very informative book, by the way. It's just many of the programs are not for beginners. Beginners should be doing much lower volume stuff. I think Arnold actually does have a better beginners program, but I didn't think I was a beginner. I thought I was an intermediate, even though I was definitely a beginner. And I did those for a while. I made fairly good progress because I was getting new gains. I wasn't completely untrained because I was an athlete. I've always been an athlete, so I came in with better strength than your average Joe might, but I wasn't strong at all. But at the time I was squatting well under 2 plates. I was not even bench pressing a plate, and I could probably, it actually took me like a month or so to convince myself that deadlifting was actually a lift worth doing. And I could probably barely deadlift 2 plates the first day I did deadlifts. And as I progressed, I slowly started learning a bit more, doing more research. I found out that body part splits probably weren't the best way to train as a natural and a beginner. And after watching a Matt Ogus video, I decided to do a legs push-pull routine. I still didn't really think too much about the programming. I was not concentrating on doing proper progressive overload enough. The thing I was doing correctly was I was doing major compound movements for the vast majority of my training. I still did isolation exercises just to get a pump and a burn, but I was squatting, I was pressing, I was doing rows, I was deadlifting. So I made probably much better gains on the legs push-pull than it was on the body part splits, because when I was getting more recovery. 2, I was having more energy for the major movements instead of just these accessory movements. And I wasn't wasting a day on an arm day. Then I can't really remember exactly why I started doing this. I think it had to do with 2 different things. It had to do with time constraints and watching a few videos that had influenced me to maybe try full body routines. And one of the videos was Leroy Colbert on Mr. Yorkie Loves Fitness, I think, is the channel. the guy who owns the channel sometimes has Leroy Colbert on it, and he talks about it. And Leroy Colbert preaches full body routines. And Steve Reeves, who is one of my father's favorite action heroes from when he was a kid. Steve Reeves was the Hercules he remembers from TV as a kid. And Steve Reeves did 3 days a week full body. And I decided to start out with a upper-lower split, where I do all my upper body movements on one day, and I do my lower body movements on another day. And I actually really liked it. The only problem, once again, is I was probably doing way too much volume. I felt I had to do 30, 40 sets for some reason, and there was just no need for that. And a lot of the exercises ended up just being exercises I either had done a movement that already worked the muscle that way, or it's just unnecessary. I mean, I remember doing 3 different types of leg curls just because my gym had a standing, seated, and lying leg curl. There's just no reason to do 3 different types of leg curls. Just no reason whatsoever. And I thought I needed to do squats, lunges, leg press, hack squats, then 3 or 4 other variations to get a good workout, and this is just not how it works. And I was probably still overtraining some, not too much, but I was probably overtraining a bit. Then after Christmas, I eventually, especially since I started to idolize Steve Reeves even more and more, I decided to switch completely to full body routines. And originally, I would do, actually what I would do is I'd do my entire full body workout, then I'd rest, then I'd do lower body. And I was doing way too much still. I pressed, overhead pressed, I bench pressed, I even did incline and bench and rows, pull-ups, upright rows. I did the cable rows, several other different exercises. Sometimes it was just for the sake of doing them, which looking back at it seems stupid. I always made sure I had time to do curls and tricep, some sort of tricep movement as well. Then legs, I would do squats, deadlifts, leg press, hack squat, Jefferson squat, lunges, etc., etc. And once again, to do a workout like that, it took like 3 hours, so it just wasn't necessary, and it was hard to make time for that out of my day. I had to sacrifice a lot of things to do that. So what I ended up doing, this is very, very close to what I do now, is I switched to a program that is much more practical, and I would recommend people do something very similar to this. Switch to, I had 2 different workouts which I alternated from basically, and what it would be is day 1 would be bench press, bent over row, squat. Day 2 would be overhead press, pendlay row, squat. And I would program my deadlifts in once to twice a week. It could be on either day, it just depended how I felt, but I would do deadlifts at least once a week. And I could do any accessory movements after I did the main 3 or 4 movements if I did deadlifts, which a lot of days I don't even do the accessory movements, but when I have time I do a few accessory movements. But this was when I made the most substantial gains, and the main reason was I successfully applied progressive overload to all my lifts. And voila, when you do something consistently and you progress in actually performing the lift itself, you get better at it and you get stronger. And so, following pretty much that, I got to what I did yesterday on August 16th with my good friend Kevin. We did a mock powerlifting meet, and I decided to do it because it was my one year of training to see how much I've progressed. And so for my total, I totaled at 1,100 pounds. I had a 405 squat, a 230 pound bench press, and a 465 deadlift. So 1,100 pounds. Honestly, I feel like I've made fairly good progress. And as something I've mentioned, one of my favorite channels on YouTube right now is Jason Blah's channel, Juggernaut Fitness TV. He has for 1 year trainee strength standards that they should reach. It's a 225 bench, 315 squat, and 405 deadlift, which on the squat, I've nailed that, easily surpassed it. I mean, I've easily surpassed the strength standard for 1 year. Bench press, I barely squeaked by. Deadlift, I got past fairly easy as well. Not quite as impressive as my squat, but I got past it fairly easy. And I'm overall quite happy with that. So my goals, looking at the two, I think my squat I overachieved. I think my bench press, some people would probably say I underachieved, but I think I did the bare minimum. I'm about average. And my deadlift, I maybe did a little slightly better than average, nothing special, but slightly better than average. I do think I just have to mention this because this is something I've spoken to with people before. With the bench press, I think standards are slightly skewed because bench press is the most popular lift among your average gym goer. You'll see plenty of people who cannot squat 225 below parallel or hip crease below the knee, but they can rep out 225 on a bench press. And that's not uncommon. I've joked about it with a few friends of mine that there are more 315 pound bench pressers at my gym than there are 315 pound squatters. And you know, that's actually the truth. There are more 315 pound bench pressers than there are squatters. And I think this preference that the average Joe has is kind of slightly skewed the standards to being a little higher than what the squat or the deadlift are. And that's why, and to back up my point, and I'm not comparing myself to him that much because this guy is a million times better lifter than I am and likely ever will be. But using his lift numbers, and he's one of my favorite YouTubers as well, Candido. He has over a 600 pound deadlift, over 500 pound squat, and his bench press is I think it was the world meets was 319 pounds, which is still a very, very good bench press. But to use it in comparison, there are guys at my gym who can probably out bench press Candido. Admittedly, pretty much every single one of these guys is much, much, much bigger than Johnny. Some of them are 200, 300 pounds, more fat than muscle, but they're still huge. But I don't think I've ever actually met someone in person who can squat or deadlift more than Johnny. So you put that in perspective, you're taking someone who I consider to be an elite natural powerlifter in Candido. There are average Joes at my gym who can put more on the bar and bench press than him, but no one can touch him in the squat or deadlift. And I think he considers bench press a lagging lift for him as well. But I don't think it's as much that it's lagging. I just think that the emphasis on bench is far higher than the squat and the deadlift for the average person. So your bench is closer to other things for average people. Like a lot of people you would see after 1 year of training, their squat would be in the maybe mid 300s, but their bench would be close to 300, something like that. But I'll be honest, I'm slightly making excuses for my bench press sucking, and it does suck. But on to what my plan is for this next year. My short-term goal, I want to get a 500 pound deadlift, and I want to put as much poundage on my bench press as possible. So what I'm going to be doing is, since I'm still having good gains on just a basic progressive overload, just adding weight to the bar, I'm not going to be doing anything fancy, But what I'm going to be doing, instead of alternating bench press and overhead press, because my overhead press is actually progressed a lot faster than my bench press for some reason. I don't really understand why. But my overhead press is decent. One Rep Max calculator has it at 185 pounds, which for my weight had me at like the bare minimum of advanced on exrx.net, if that means anything. But what I'm going to be doing now is Monday and Friday are going to be bench press days, and Wednesday is going to be an overhead press day. So I'm going to bench press 2 times a week every week, overhead press 1 time a week every week. And I think that will do a great number for my bench press. And I'm just going to have to start, because my short-term goal right before my mock powerlifting meet was to get a 405 squat, because that was what the milestone I was close to. I kind of put deadlifting a little bit on the back foot. I'm going to have to be putting deadlifting, make sure I do that bare minimum once a week, sometimes do twice a week. Because my new main goal, because that new milestone that I'm close to is that 500 pound deadlift. And that's something I think I can do. And my goal is to get that before Christmas. Alright guys, so that's my 1 year of progress from consistent weightlifting. I'm about finished with my beer. Need to get another. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.